Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicole Bush with Alumni Career Services here at Tulane. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have with us, still letting people in, so we're getting started here a little bit. Just also need to let you know that the session is being recorded and it will be available after on the app. You also can ask questions in the chat, or you can send them to the session Q&A on the app if you prefer, and they will stay on there long term. So I think we have everybody getting in here. When it comes time for Q&A, you just put them in the chats and then we'll call on you or ask the questions of our speakers here. So I'd like to welcome our alum, Mike Casey, and his business partner, Phil Minicelli. Am I saying that right? And let them introduce themselves as we get started in hearing a bit about entrepreneurship. Go ahead, Mike, thanks.
Hi, all. I'm honored that I was asked to be here from Nicole, and it's been really interesting how we've got to this. I originally reached out to Tulane to try to get the word out about a company that we formed with a friend of mine that I met at Tulane. So it seems like it's kind of been like a really organic thing. And what I want to do is I want to walk you guys through how we got to today, where we're at. And I'll leave it up to anybody if they have questions or like just kind of like my take on if someone wanted to repeat what I did, maybe some key things they would want to develop in terms of their skill set or their abilities. And then I'm open up to any question. Nicole and I talked about not having breakout sessions. I don't really care. Whatever, I'm here for you guys. So whatever you want, I'll do. I mean, I'm putting this time aside. Nicole's set this up for you guys. I don't need formality at all. And whatever gets the most out of it for you. I mean, that's why I'm here. So don't be shy. So Joe McMahon is actually my business partner that I met at Tulane. We were Joe's a couple years younger than me, and he's from a similar background. He's from New York. I'm from Philadelphia. We just became friends, and we just got to know each other. I went to his shore house in Fire Island. I think we hung out in New York a couple times, but that was in 2007, so it's 13 years ago, and they just had an affinity for each other. It's kind of funny if you jump up to time in 2009. I was in commercial construction post Katrina, and it was a really great post Katrina for horrible reasons. But Joe he was at Morgan Stanley in New York and wanted to leave Morgan Stanley to start his own company, so he ended up moving in to my apartment, and I'm not kidding, sleeping on a pile of clothes and eating rice, and started what he now has as Chapter Spot, which employs dozens of people and is I think they're the largest provider in fraternal organizations, social organizations, data, transactions, communications. He literally built that with another friend of ours, Brennan, in a back room. He's literally a garage band startup. And it was really impressive watching. I mean, for years, I'm not kidding. I would walk into his apartment. He would have a 5-pound sack of rice, 144 eggs, beans, and that was his month of food. And it was really impressive. And just the level of dedication was really great. So we jump forward a little bit more. I end up going to Philadelphia to work for Morgan Stanley. And, it was great. It was wonderful people. I had a really good time. I was in sales, and sales is definitely the closest thing you're going to get to entrepreneurship in an organization by far. I know that's cliche to say that, but it's 100% true. I worked with wonderful people. They were really intelligent. They were really thoughtful. It was just not for me. Nothing against suits and ties. I like wearing a suit. It's fun. It's just very, you work for Morgan Stanley, so whatever. And my partner pitched Liberty Cheesesteaks for me, which is now my company. He's like, hey, you want to give up your cushy life and your great career trajectory and start something from scratch that has a 90% chance of failing? I was like, let's do that. So it's kind of funny. Joe and I often talked going back and forth, and we kind of came together for another project. In 2016, Uber Eats came into the market, and I don't know anyone's opinion about Uber. I can go really deep on that. But they disrupted the market for better or worse, and they really diffused a lot of interesting overhead costs. And again, not getting into the morals or the ethics behind it, but they really kind of went bulls blazing into my market which is really archaic. I mean, the restaurant business, besides some technology, is pretty much the same since 1920, as far as I can tell. And delivery is a really interesting part of the restaurant industry, which I used to have my own delivery drivers, and it's really not a good business at all. There's zero money to it, but it's a good marketing thing. And Uber is a marketing powerhouse. So I was trying to leverage Uber and a main human error input cost by creating this company that was going to communicate through API from Uber Eats to my POS system and streamline, because customer satisfaction plummeted. It plummets the second you go into delivery in general. And the number one complaint is communication. So we were just trying to correct that. He's an expert in communication. He's an expert in data management. He's an expert in IT infrastructure. I know how to sell a sandwich. Uber doesn't care about anyone, so they kind of like do whatever you want. And it made sense. We can never really crack it, and then competitors beat us in the market. There seems to be out of Chicago. Chicago seems to be a huge IT kind of B team city. Like, they seem to make a lot of companies that are not sexy but produce a lot of revenue. So I don't know if anybody's in Chicago or if anybody's thinking about that. Chicago's a great place for restaurant technology, which is a huge growth industry. But yes, that fell apart. And and Joe and I, we tried to work together, and it didn't work out, but it worked great. And it was probably 2 months of really intense back and forth communication. We brought in a really awesome dude for programming, building kind of the infrastructure out, even though it didn't take. And, we tried, it failed. Sometimes you learn more in failure than success. Everyone knows that. So then 2019 happened. Everything kind of started getting a little weird. A lot of people, I feel like, have selective memory, but we started seeing really weird medical stuff, especially me, because I employ a staff of 17 to 24-year-olds, i.e. people who go to bars, concerts, everywhere that COVID is, my staff goes. And like, stuff started getting really weird around November. And I was just communicating with Joe. Joe's wife got walking pneumonia in the middle of January, which, it seems weird that a 32-year-old healthy woman would get walking pneumonia. And then it's like, oh, wait, COVID. And then in January, something's happened. February is Mardi Gras. We knew everything was up. March 9th or 13th, I'm sorry, forgive me. That's when the shut-in order came in. And that's when everyone freaked out. China pulled back the PPE stuff. It was really difficult. Ochsner kind of came in, and from another friend of ours, bought out complete capacity of PPE bought locally. We had another friend who's at LCMC, which is like the number 2 hospital group in town. They really needed something. It was a fun project. We ended up having to make 1,000 visors for nurses. So they would have a cloth mask, not N94 or N95, but they got a cloth mask and a visor, and it had the same theoretical protectiveness of a N95. And Joe, just because he knew me, my family has a fifth generation manufacturer of Philadelphia, not in plastics, but it's a very rare knowledge base that I have that Joe knew about. So they reached out to me. They were having trouble with sourcing. I saw their sourcing problems in minutes. We got together and we made masks for nurses in ICUs. So it was pretty awesome. And I want to move on from that, but it was kind of cool. A month later, I was giving food from my restaurant to these very same ICU nurses. And I don't know if anybody's had that experience, but I walked in to these hospitals and it was like what I could imagine like the D-Day trenches were like. It was just, people were just whipped. And the fact that, we could give gear to these people and that would keep them safe, that I can give them food, like it just felt very good to be part of that. But then they get back on track. While I was trying to rework my business, I never closed my business. I took the same parameters we had for influenza that's given to us by the CDC and DH, Department of Health and Hospitals in Louisiana. I crossed out or blanked over flu, put in COVID, put up all the parameters. People still weren't coming in. My business plummeted 60%. The restaurant industry is, it's an experience-based industry. I want people to come in and be comfortable. I want them to be happy they're there. I want them to feel they're eating, getting value, but also that the food's not going to kill them. That's generally a good thing. You can ask Chipotle about that. And, so I was looking for ways to enhance the visual experience because I was brought up, my family is also has have a very large family. I'm Irish Italian Catholic. I have family in the restaurant business, small business world, and the adage is you taste with your eyes, then you taste with your nose, then you taste with your mouth. So if you don't that and in that order, you repel people. So if it's not visually pleasing in a restaurant, you're out. You know, if it smells horrible, like no one's gonna eat in the sewer, you're out. And if the food's bad, you're out. So the visual problem was something I had to do. Well, we got pitched by a competitor, which is now a current competitor of ours, and he came in and wanted to sell me barriers, and the price was just really, really high. I tapped Joe. I was like, "Hey, man, can you make this?" And Joe's like, he told me his capacity. He's like, looked at it, talked to his foreman. He's like, "Yes, I can make an astounding amount of these things very quickly, locally." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Well, how much?" And he's just like, he told me basically hundreds and hundreds a week, no problem. So we reached out to another friend of ours who happens to be the dean of admissions at Tulane. And I was like, "Hey man, are you guys buying this? Cause it's popping up everywhere." He's like, "I don't know, but you know, let me refer you to someone." And a lot of herky jerky action. You know, we're now one of 3 approved vendors selling plexiglass to Tulane University. We're also at LSU. We're kind of working with the charter school system. We're selling stuff online. California seems to be a big, massive buyer of this stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's been really, really wild. It turned out to be pretty lucrative, but it was not without challenges. I mean, the price of plexi spiked. You know, it's the customer expectations have been extremely challenging. I have a lot of thoughts in that too. Why that's going to be, but basically no one ever had budgets for these. No one ever had an idea for it. There's no comparative there's no comparative product that has ever been bought by most of our customers, and there's no real intrinsic utility to them. It's a very interesting thing, but it's in high demand, and we do get surges from time to time that shows that people kind of panic buy, which is again challenging itself. So again, it's like we're constantly educating, we're constantly servicing, trying to manage expectations. But we always come back to the root that, you know, when it was nurses at LCMC or whether it's customers buying a cheesesteak, it's like, you got to go the extra mile. I mean, that's just the way of the world in COVID world. I mean, everyone is just scared or hurting or just has expectations that are hard to really know right off the top. So if you are seriously an experienced seller or you have clients, you have every reason to, you know, satisfy every level of demand. Like whatever's going to make people comfortable. I mean, that's the minimum. That's where you got to start. And yeah, and so that's kind of where we've been going with Joe. And now we've expanded a couple different products. You know, work with the institutions, getting feedback. Again, data management, like we're getting feedback. Like this is what people want. This is what, you know, is what we think is going to make people feel more safe in these spaces. And yeah, now we're rolling out a couple on appliance, a couple different enhanced features for people feeling cleanliness. You know, again, not PPE. Kind of went away from PPE. But a lot of other fun stuff. And yeah, and then it got to be so much that I had to bring in Phil, who's on the call with us today. And just to have it, we're gonna have to build a sales staff. Like it's blown up and it's been really fun. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the essence of the entire trip. And I don't know, Nicole, I don't know if you want to open up to questions now, or if you know, want me to comment further or any of that, but that's pretty much how we got to where we are today.
That's great. And I think our questions, we have 2 already that kind of cover some of this, but one of them, actually, they're kind of one and the same. They're both asking about entrepreneurship opportunities that exist right now, kind of how to get started during the pandemic. And the other one is to talk about the problems, issues, or challenging you see in this new normal that maybe the right entrepreneur could solve. So I think they're both kind of talking about opportunities now.
Yeah, no, yeah, I want to start with, and I want to come back to a different point in terms of what I think challenges are. Challenge is a great word I love, but to start, I think it's something you and I talked about, Nicole, is entrepreneurship doesn't happen overnight. Like you don't get blasted in the head in an event Google. Like whoever told you that or sold you that book, get your money back. I made a point of having this timeline because, I mean, there's a million things in that timeline that I didn't add. but I'm always in the game. Joe and I have a great relationship, and I love the fact we're working together, but there's 15 Joes that I'm texting with, I'm emailing with on a constant basis. Entrepreneurship is a very, very built ethos, and your foundation is your people, because I always like to say, it's like, yeah, I guess I'm going to get into this. Everything's a challenge for an entrepreneur. It's like, oh, I made a ton of money. Well, that's a challenge. What am I going to do with this money? It's like, oh, I made no money. It's like, okay, cool. What did I learn? This is a challenge. Let's pick up the failed remnants of what I'm doing and go again. But you're never going to do something alone in entrepreneurship. And Joe and I tried and failed to get a couple businesses going, but we got to know each other through that. And Joe, I'm sure, has 50 mics he talks to in his world. But he knew to come to me because he knew that I had experience in American manufacturing, which I'm sure if every person, if you took a head count here, probably no one on this call knows anything about American manufacturing. It's a very opaque, weird industry, and we're the number 3 manufacturers in the world. It's China, us, USA, or excuse me, China, EU, and then us. We produce an unbelievable amount of really high quality manufacturing, despite the cliches and the however you want to, poo-poo made in America. It's really robust, and it's there's a lot of problems in it, and there's a lot of things that Joe and I are kind of interested to see if we can help. But, Joe knew to come to me, and that's from 13 years of knowing. So if you want to start an entrepreneurship, if you're looking for an idea or product, you're in the wrong business. Like, start a blog. That's not it. We're in the people business, and you need to be, have people who help you get to something. I don't know how to better describe this, is that like, it won't, the opportunity will manifest itself, and you have to be ready to seize it. And if you are alone, or you're a man on an island or a woman on an island, you're not going to go anywhere. Even like the best idea in the world, or the best opportunity in the world can come to you. You need to have people help you get there. Every entrepreneur does. And you don't even know the resources you have. So I was going to suggest to someone how to start just general entrepreneurship before I get into COVID world. If you talk to people, or you have people in your life, or you have people, within a couple of degrees of connection, and you want to network, or you want to do that, you should want to know every single thing about all those people. Stop writing your mission statement. Stop doing all that crap. No one cares about you. They really don't. There's no other way to say that. You should really get very interested and curious about everyone around you. And then as you learn stories and you learn opportunities, you can match stuff to people. If you're a true entrepreneur, you can see that pattern. You can kind of see the tea leaves. And, if anything comes up and you have a rapport with someone, and you know something odd about them, or you know something that may not be evident, or you might know interests. I had a great job. I had a great career trajectory. My partner, best friend, he reached out, like, hey man, you want to start a restaurant? On the face value, it's like, hey, do you want to leave your very cushy, very lucrative job, which was a very good trajectory, to throw it all away? And you would be insane to do that unless you knew me. And I'm not saying that I'm insane. I'm just saying that is my value. I value the challenge. I value this. My friend knew that about me. Joe knew to come to me to get these visors done. I knew to go back to him because he had these laser cutters. They are capable of cutting plexi and produce locally. We both saw demand coming, and we started it. As they say, you don't build an ark in the rain. You build an ark when it's sunny. So I know that doesn't really help in terms of COVID world, but if you really want to go into entrepreneurship, you have to be incredibly curious. You have to be very people driven, because entrepreneurship is 100% people and organization. And you got to have that. You got to have the passion. You have to be able to very quickly recognize opportunities that come up, because it's hard to pin down exactly what it is, but I jump out of bed every day to do crazy stuff, and you're not going to get that on LinkedIn profile. You're just not. In COVID world, in terms of entrepreneurship, if I was going to, let's say I start today and I want to start another COVID business, first thing, what is different? And that's obvious. But not as what is different. I'm in retail already. I'm in food retail. anyone who services a customer in this environment, the customer is wildly different. They are a lot more scared. They're a lot more alone. You know, their work habits have changed. Their child care habits have changed. Their dietary habits have changed. Their clothing habits have changed. I mean, like casual wear is going through the roof, and like, you know, if you're making high-end suits that are power suits, your day's over. So I mean, that whole demographic, you know, again, like this is a great example. I mean, I hate to pin it back to this. My family is in manufacturing. I have a kind of fondness of American manufacturing. Joe wanted to build some stuff. He knew to tap me. We put our brains together, and then we used our network and we leveraged into it. Whatever's around you, I mean, I wouldn't even think you have to get that exotic. You know, whatever's changing in your world, you are an American. You're part of the American economy. Anything you've done to adjust or to enhance your life in this world, you know, take a hard thought about, you know, what product or service could have made that easier or what could have enhanced the outcome, and then turn around and like, hey, like, who the hell can I sell this to? Do the market research, be like, hey, you know, we did. It's just like, I mean, how many there's 25 institutions within 10 miles of New Orleans, you know, figuring the X number of dollars we made off Tulane. This is the business. It's a good number. It's like, this is worth 6 months of our time. You know, we're going to try to solve this issue because we define our business as we are creating perceptually safe environments for institutional buyers that require their clients to come back. Because Tulane doesn't have students who are out of business. I don't care what you say about endowments. Like, if you know anything about the business, I mean, I was a Katrina kid. You know, I was very aware that Tulane needs money when I came back from my semester abroad. And like, oh, by the way, you owe us for all this money. So they need clients. They have a pressing need. I mean, kids, they see someone sneeze and they're not coming to school for 2 weeks. It's not good enough. So we're creating this product, and yeah, we're kind of going with it. I could take more specific questions if you want to bounce off ideas. But again, it's again, getting back to, there's a challenge. How you look at a challenge is, if you get defeated and go home, go work for a corporation. But HR will take care of it, and someone will send you an email and you figure it out. If you want to look at a challenge as like, this is awesome, let's get through this. It's like, if you get fired or you like can't take your kids to daycare and you're like, this is awesome, what are we gonna do? Then you're an entrepreneur. You just got to maybe need a little bit more direction, organization. And, you know, that mentality can't be taught. I don't think so, but you can definitely, you know, understand it better and make steps towards it, especially if you're looking to do something. I mean, again, Joe and I just had a ton of capacity. I'm in the restaurant world. Restaurants are cut in half. Everyone's dying. Takeout is super easy. No one's talking about that, but I need like a third of the staff I need for takeout. There's no reason for me to hire anyone back. No one in the restaurant world is going to hire anyone back. They're making horrible money. There's no profit. So there's investors are fleeing in masses. And again, so there's no creativity. That's why I joke. I feel like a freaking vending machine. Like, I got into this because I love people and I love food, and I'm a cheesesteak vending machine. Imagine you're a high-end restaurant and you're doing really incredible stuff with very talented people, and someone's like, cool, I'll Uber Eats it. It's like, oh my God. They talk about the exact opposite of why we got in this business. It's dehumanizing to the nth degree. But, you know, it's Joe and I had capacity. We put our minds together and we created a company that just happened to take off. You know, it's not like I was like 14 and was like, God, I can't wait to grow up and be a plexiglass manufacturer. It's just not how that shit works. It isn't. So. Sorry, Nicole, is that good enough? Or you want me to elaborate?
Oh, that's good. That's good. I think we do have a question about how you talked about talking to people. What suggestions do you have for finding the right people to talk to, or their professional organizations or such that you would recommend people join or access? I'll say the Tulane Network, you know, but you can come up with some other ones.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I don't know if I can ask that person directly if they can refine that question, but like, I don't understand the point. If I wanted to talk to somebody, it's like, you know, I would want to know so much about them. So, I mean, like, I guess organizations would be good. You know, if someone's in Tulane, they went to Tulane. They want to talk about being Tulane people, or they want to talk to the people with similar experiences. It's like any association, fraternities, sports clubs. NCAA referral networks are the strongest in the country. It's unbelievable, those guys that look out for each other. If you played college sports, it's a really great network. Alumni associations are great. People always look for a connection, and if you can find anything in common with someone, they're generally, if they put it out there, like if they put stuff on LinkedIn. I was actually just mentoring a former employee of mine. She's a young woman in LA, and it's fascinating how little people know about networking. We're sitting there talking about this job she wants, and she's acting like the important one. And it's a hard thing to tell a young woman, especially where it's like, you're the least important human being on earth when you're trying to get something from someone. Like I try to help her understand the job. I really pressed her and made her flush out like why she wants this, how is this affecting career? What is her reasoning behind it? Why is she going to value it? What she expects to get out of it in 2 years from the beginning of a job or a project. 2 years later, how are you better? How are you more dynamic a human being? Just stuff she didn't even think about. And it, she felt, I don't want to say insulted. She felt kind of sheepish that she didn't see it that way once I kind of showed her what's going on. But then we looked at the people who were hiring, and we went through their LinkedIn profile, as I just shit on LinkedIn. And she's kind of like going through, and she's like, well, do you think I can reach out to these women? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, they put their stuff on LinkedIn. Like, they're not hiding the ball. They're not being like, oh, yeah, you called me from LinkedIn. How dare you that I put my credentials out there and, all the associations I'm part of. And, and one girl is really cool. She, I'm not in technology at all. I'm actually very, very bad at technology. But one of the people hiring put girls at code. And I just happen to know that from podcasts. I like that. It's a really cool organization, and they're really aggressively trying to push women into code or tech. And she's like, oh, do you think I can talk to him about that? I was like, yeah, man. I was like, this entire organization is set up to advance women, you're a woman, into the technology industry. You want to be in the technology industry, and especially anything in entrepreneurship, what you want to do. It's like these people are like, hey, we want you. And you're like, should I talk to the people who want me? I kind of can't really bridge that gap. But you can't, and I'm being very cavalier, and I don't mean to be cavalier. Again, I've been doing this for years. However you want to say, I guess I'm, 15 plus years into my career. I'm 13 years into my friendship with my current partner. I'm 20 years into my friendship with my other partner. I'm starting another opportunity with someone that I've been doing business with for 8 years. I didn't just wake up one day and decide to open these companies. Like, it's been a lot of concerted effort and I have very defined goals of what I wanted to be in terms of individual. And I've had a very up and down or not straight path to get there. But I always kind of knew. And so I had no problem asking someone for help. And so I would say, if you want to network, one, know who the hell you are, because you probably don't. Two, if you can't define your ideal job or your ideal business or your ideal stuff like that, define the skill set that you want. If you want to be in programming, then learn how to fucking program. Like if you want to be in manufacturing, like go get a job at a manufacturer for 5 years and see what they're all about. Like, get in that world, learn the jargon, do whatever. But figure yourself out before you ask anyone for help. And then look at the people around you. They're probably way more dynamic than you think. They probably have deep, deep interest and wild experience that's really awesome. I don't care, I don't care what their background is, what their socioeconomic background is, what their gender is. I don't care any of that. They probably had experience that you can't believe that can maybe give you insight that you would be blown away by. So yeah, start with yourself, start with everyone around you. And then be honest and like, all right, yeah, I want to go into finance. Here's the New Orleans Chamber of Commerce. Let's go freaking not talk to these people. They would probably be over the moon to tell you about every single financial services firm in New Orleans who is part of the chamber. But if you don't ask, yeah, that's on you, man. I've Michael Jordan, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
We do have another question. What would you tell people that are afraid of sharing ideas with others because they may steal it?
Then your idea is not worth anything. It's kind of, I don't know if you read one, let me go back to entrepreneurship. If you want to be an entrepreneur, read every day. I haven't watched TV in 10 years. I read constantly. I'm never not reading 5 books. You have to be dynamic and you have to be a constantly evolving skill set. You should read all that kind of, lean startup or lean in, lean startup, habit stuff like that. It's all, good to great companies, adventures in business, how to influence people or win friends and influence people. I know it's kind of corny to say read a 100-year-old book, but it's really good. If you have, there's a billion ideas every minute, but the kind of the cliche thing in the tech world is that every company is 90% execution, 9% team, and 1% idea. And I can tell you from restaurant business to this manufacturing company to other companies that didn't have work out, it's all about executing. And you need people, and you're not going to get anywhere without the right people. If you don't want to share your idea with people, unless it's like some crazy IP that I know nothing about, I don't know that world at all. It's probably, it's probably something that you might want to flush out more and then find key people that you're going to need to get that idea to market or to fruition. And then you probably haven't built a business plan around it. I would say that's the obvious thing to me. You don't know what capital you'll need. You don't know what type of infrastructure you need. You don't know what, or maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out my ass. Or you're just not willing to commit to making that come to fruition, because the execution, your idea in your head, there's no criticism to it, because the market is just criticism. They're either going to buy it or they're going to reject it. And so holding on to an idea tells me that you're not willing to have someone tell you it's not a good idea. And, hey man, I failed more than I succeeded. I'm in the restaurant business and it's not good. I can tell you that right now. And everything I worked for 8 years, at any moment can go away. But I went in with all my heart. I white knuckled it through bad times. I've enjoyed the good times. And if it goes away or people want to stop buying cheesesteaks, that's the market, man. It is a non-emotional judgment of whether you are producing a good or desirable service or product. And holding on to it too, it's just like, you're always in the business of people, unless you're some troll that lives in some data farm somewhere where you're literally just producing algorithms. You're going to have to deal with people, and you're going to need people. And if you can't trust people, then you got to, I think, build a skill set to identifying people better. Whenever I'm training a new manager, this is a really bad tangent. I'll stop right here after this, but it's pretty useful, I think. Whenever I have a manager and I'm trying to develop people, I always tell people I only hire people going somewhere, and I just want to hold them for a little bit. I want to train them if I can't afford them, and I'm going to ride that little incremental profit is the only thing that business is. And I tell my manager, when we're doing that, I was like, you got to pretend you're Wizard of Oz, man. You're going to meet people that are coming down the yellow brick road. You have no idea what's wrong with them. They're all a mess and they're all directionless. You just got to find that one thing they're missing, and you develop that little thing, and you kind of let it go. And then, you're on to an adventure. Business is an adventure. And, it's 99% of the time, it's people who let you down. So I get you having trust issues with people. But yeah, if you're not willing to take criticism from the market and you're not willing to build a relationship with people, you're probably not long for the entrepreneur life.
Okay. On that note, let's maybe talking about looking for right people. Phil, did you want to chime in about what you guys are looking for?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll get into like a brief bio of how I connected with Mike and how this opportunity presented itself to me. I've been in sales since I moved down to New Orleans, and even before when I lived up in New York and Philadelphia. And I found myself an opportunity to work in beverage. He has a cheesesteak shop where he has beverages available for sale. So I became essentially the manager for that particular account. Over the years, I developed my own company, which is a brokerage and consulting company for brands, introducing them to the market. Anytime I had anything new, you can guarantee Mike was going to get a taste. And we became pals over the years. watching the Eagles games, watching the Eagles win the Super Bowl at the shop. That was an incredible experience.
Long time ago anymore.
Absolutely. We have some work to do as the Eagles. But, long story short, I kind of saw what was happening with COVID, and the opportunities for me were vastly decreasing. I sell a lot of unique products and craft products, and there just wasn't a market for that as COVID was happening and as quarantine was happening. So I pivoted, and I think a large part of that was also kind of controlling the ego and speaking as an entrepreneur, like letting go of like, okay, well, I know that it may not be dead, but it's just something that I need to put to the side because we're not in the same place we were, in 2018, in 2017. We're in a different place now. So, Mike was like, well, there's an opportunity with me. I said, let's hear it. Let's go.
I think you were in my restaurant eating. I was like, hey, you want to work with me? And you're like, yeah.
Probably commiserating a little bit about like the state of the industry. But that's just how these things develop. And on the note of, what someone had a question before, pursuing like, how do I know to speak to the right people? Well, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're just creating a personal relationship with someone, and it might just be someone making a cheesesteak, but you don't know if you're talking to the owner of the business, or you don't know how many networks and fingers of connections that particular person has. And I think this is a great example, because I didn't know Mike had these relationships with, certain manufacturers, and this opportunity to create something here in New Orleans and give back to our community in the way that we have. And it's really been an honor and a privilege to work with Tulane in this capacity. And, we just installed plexiglass for the pathology lab, which is where they process all of the COVID tests that are taken on campus. So we were able to create barriers for the microscopes in multiple labs. So the residents and the professors can go in there and feel comfortable. And I mean, they're responsible for telling students and faculty that they're positive or negative with the COVID test that happened. So, and in terms of what we're looking to build and establish, it's people with sales experience, people with institutional relationships, because I personally didn't have that before I came on. So it's been a learning experience for me to go into the school and find the right channels to make all this happen. And we've had help along the way. We've had organic things that have happened. We'll go in and we'll do an installation here, and then someone just happens to walk by down the hall and say, hey, can you come and look at my space over here? Because I need some plexiglass in there as well. And it's just kind of been an organic thing, and also connections and reaching out through the niche work that we've done, like the pathology lab, like an opportunity to work in transportation and shuttles as well. Like tomorrow morning, I go and I meet with the people there to design basically plexiglass barriers that they can move in and out of the vans that they rent on campus to transport kids to and from areas. So that's really what we're looking for. It's the management of sales, existing channels of sales that we've developed, but also opportunities to branch this past one university and two universities, and increase the relationships across, nationally, because we do have the ability to customize the plexiglass in ways other manufacturers can't right now, or may not have any desire to.
Yeah.
Like if any other one of those vendors looked at those microscopes, they probably were like, nah, I'm good. Because they, have standard sizes that they might have been approaching and said, hey, this may not be the project for us. And we've developed not just the standard sizes, but now we have the ability with the team to go in and measure accurately, make sure that we're executing unique plexiglass to fit the pain points that exist in every university, not just Tulane, university. Did I cover everything?
Yeah, great job. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, we only have about 10 minutes left. So just want to see if anyone has questions. We don't need to, I don't know that we really have time to go into breakout rooms or anything now. So if anyone just has some specific questions or they don't have to be specific, general questions for Mike or Phil, just let me know in the chat and I'll unmute you. Or you can put it in the session. Or Sharon.
Yeah. I have a quick question. This is Stefan Lumiere. How you doing?
what's that?
We're good. So I popped on a little bit late, so I apologize for that. I heard a lot about what you're talking about, but just in terms of setting up your company, how did you go about doing that? I don't know if you addressed that already.
Oh, so when you mean setting it up, you mean like
Setting up from a corporate entity up through, I guess, just initiating a telecom office, etc. Like
then you came on way late to it, dude. So I have a different. I have a restaurant company, and my friend Joe, he has a whole other company we talked about that he runs. We both run this, and he has kind of a side hustle, if you want to call it. I hate that word for a lot of reasons. Where he makes custom art and custom products using laser cutting technology. See, like it's basically CAD driven laser cutting saws, and no one knows what that means. Like I do, because my family owned that stuff and has used every iteration from a foot crank saw up until the most 3D AI driven cutting, laser driven cutting. Like, so then he's like, hey man, can you do this? Oh, I went to him. I was like, hey, can you cut this up? He's like, yeah. I was like, what's your scale? I think I'm gonna sell this to people. He's like, my scale's crazy. And I was like, let me see if I can sell your scale. And so I went out and developed sales channels. And it's like, this is way more sales channels than I thought. So like, let's get my buddy Phil in here. We 1099 him. He's coming in here. He's selling this stuff for us. Like, this is an on-the-fly thing. Our articles of organization are going to be put together after we officially hammer down Phil's job, and we're trying to actively hire. We already have 2 hires for Phil. 5 weeks ago, Phil didn't work for us. So, I mean, it's on the fly. There's no seed rounds. There's no AB. There's none of that crap that you see on CNBC. This is like old school American, like,
Go do it. Yeah, I got it.
Can we do this? Can we do this? Like, yeah, we can do this. We're talking about bookkeepers. Keep everything above board. We're paying sales tax. We're not doing anything that is, wrong, but we didn't get together and like, hey man, what's going to be our corporate entity? Like, what are we, what bank are we going to use? We're just kind of doing that. And, I feel like a lot of things have come together, have been naturally working themselves out. We stuck with Catahoula, the original name, instead of creating a new name. The financing, the LLC structure is going to stay in place for that. We're going to reorganize the principal ownership. Phil's company is a brokerage, so he's just kind of adding an add-on. He's, instead of selling liquor, he's selling plexi.
I see. So you already have an existing LLC, so you're using that and repartitioning the share count, or you're rolling up a subsidiary within that same organization, something that
we're in negotiation for that. But this revenue stream is the only thing anyone has claim to in terms of the 4 original principles. That is something we're now overtaking the other revenue streams. So, and it basically comes down to capacity of the manufacturer. The laser has so much manufacturer capacity. Have the lion's share of the capacity. We're covering the overhead. How to redistribute ownership with that, and that's an operating agreement.
And then at the same time, I guess the most important factor is how to limit liability, right?
So basically, there's an existing company that's existed for 3 years, and we brought it into new business. So yes, the liability is their shipping, their manufacturing, effectiveness, shipping, anyone gets hurt with this stuff down the line that they already have in place. So that's based off revenues. And so we're doing that. So our revenues are overtaking our legacy revenues. So we're going to reorient that, and then we're going to renegotiate equity. we already did. We just haven't finalized it. And then, yeah, so I mean, our insurance costs, our overhead costs, our, warranties, liability, all that stuff like that, we're not negotiating because that's already in existence. So this is a kind of an evolving of a company and adding principles on to the after the fact. But there's been, I mean, this is all bootstrapped. There's no.
I've done something similar.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And wait, manufacturing?
No. Just with respect to a business, like rolling up a new division with another division, expanding business lines, kind of moving on the fly, using an existing structure to do that and try to figure it out as I go along.
Yeah, I mean, they brought all the back office support, all the liability support, everything like that. The Caterpillar brought to the table. I brought, business intelligence and revenue streams. And so we just merged that, and we just had gentlemen's agreements where we're like, oh, this is what we're gonna do. We're all gonna get quarters off this, and it's been herky jerky. Don't get me wrong. Like it probably would have solved some problems if we took a breath, but it's taking a breath in COVID world. Yeah, we lost big POs taking a breath. It's kind of like I was raised in an entrepreneurial family where it's like, when you have money on the table, then you make a lot of decisions. When there's no money, you can have the best decisions in the world. You have the best game. You have the best business plan in the world. When there's no money, who cares? So it's
jump in here because we have about 4 minutes left, and we do have one more question from Sharon.
Yes. Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm actually multitasking. I'm walking. So I had a question. I understand that you basically sound like a serial entrepreneur in the sense that you have multiple businesses going on. But I do know about the cheesesteak business, and I was wondering how you are doing in the midst of COVID with the restaurant business, with all the state regulations and closures. You sound like you're pretty nimble just in general, and clever in the sense that you try to make a way however you can. How is that?
No, I'm sorry. Are you the lady from Line Pass or
Bypass Lines? Yes.
Bypass Lines. Yeah, I think I met the gentleman who started that too. Yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. I don't know why neither of us followed up.
Spencer.
I'm sorry?
Spencer is his name, yes.
Cool, yeah, sure. Seemed like a nice guy. So if the restaurant industry is it's an overhead heavy industry, headcount heavy industry, something like that. I happen to be quick serve restaurants or QSR. QSR and fast food have fortunately or for whatever reason fared better in this environment. I can tell you for a fact that I had the worst April I've ever had, and I was down to 70% revenues. But my revenues is almost exactly the same every day. So July is the best July in history. So we're very seasonal in New Orleans, and there's just no rhyme or reason. And but yeah, no, I've lost money every single month. I've personally lost tens of thousands of dollars. We don't have any bank debt. I don't have anything that's forcing me to make bad decisions. It's just kind of like how much longer am I willing to work for negative money, negative income?
Right.
How much longer is my business partner willing to not get a return on his investment? He kind of has a little bit less leverage than I do. I mean, no one owns me, so I can go and take my talents elsewhere. He has a certain dollar amount invested in an asset, and the vacancy rate in Orleans is through the roof. So, he has no choice but to not ask for a return. Just like a lot of landlords have no choice except not to ask for rent. It's like, who's your next best thing? But it's, everything's a loser. It's, I'm in a headcount heavy industry. So one way to look at that, or very, what I would call cynical way of looking at that, is that, I'm employing less people, my costs have gone down. It's like, well, no, every person makes me money. I want to employ as many human beings as possible. I want to train them with the best skill sets as possible. I want to make them as happy and productive as humanly possible, because then they make more money. I make the incremental money. So with the collapse of my industry, it's, I'm in a position to take advantage of it, but I'm not happy about it. I mean, I'm a true capitalist. Competition makes everything better. It makes the customer better off. It makes the products better, and it makes investors better returns. Like it's better. And, with half the restaurants in the city closing, I have half the competition I had before. I mean, only a cynic would say, yay, more profit. It's like, no, it's, we're full, the city's a brand as a whole. Like people doing better forces me to do better, forces me to find innovation, forces me to hire better people, to train them better, to pay them better, to get competitive. And that's really depressing a lot of the market. And so, yeah, would I call myself nimble? No, I'd call myself a survivor. The survivors that just Titanic.
True entrepreneur.
They were just on a boat. They were on a lifeboat. And I just happened to have built an unwinning lifeboat. And it could have went the other way. I mean, it really could have went the other way. There's nothing. I did nothing. I'm not special, and I'm not more intelligent. I'm probably way less intelligent and way less talented than most people in the city. I was just in the right place at the right time.
Right. Well, that explains a lot why people aren't jumping on board. I mean, as you know, we're a startup and we're trying to get as many merchants in the city on board. And
well, we can talk more later offline if you want. I just think it's approaching restaurants. I think are done poorly. It's if we're such a razor thin margin business. Like if we're doing well, introducing anything I have to learn or do differently is causing complexity. And that's the joke. It's like you complicate to create and simplify to profit. I think that's like a Tim Ferriss something or other like that. But when I have to learn something new, you're asking me for a lot because I have zero time. So yeah, but I mean, you ping me after this or call me directly. Your partner's got my cell phone. Call me whenever you want. I mean, it might be hard to pin me down, but I'll talk to you.
I so appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks so much. And we're unfortunately out of time. So unless you have a last thought, Mike, you've covered a lot. And
yeah, can I just say that to everybody? I mean, again, I did this for y'all's enrichment. I don't really care. And obviously, if you want to call me anytime. Nicole has all my information. She can vouch that I'm pretty communicative. And like I said, I can't brag about for 13 years I've been paying attention and talking to everyone and not offer that same service to you, because God knows how much money I can make off this one of you guys. And God knows how much money we can make together. Network is a two-way street. Networking is a two-way street. I know I talk incredibly fast, so email might be better for someone who hasn't understood anything. But yeah, reach out to me, reach out to Phil. Yeah, man, like I said, I love that quote. I forget whoever said it to me, but you don't build an ark in the rain, you build an ark in the sunshine. And so, yeah, start building your arcs.
There you go. And just so everyone knows, you should be able to connect through the app as well. I mean, I'm happy to share information, but you should be able to do that in the app as well. So thanks to everyone. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you so much, Phil. We really appreciate you taking the time to share this information. I think it's really helpful. So thank you. We'll let everybody go and have a great evening and just keep connecting on the app and talking there. I think there's a meeting actually tomorrow. Someone scheduled a meetup for entrepreneurs tomorrow morning. So you can look at that in the community section. You can find that under meetups if anyone's interested. I think it's at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So thanks everybody and have a great night.
Yeah, roll wave.
Thank you so
Roll
much.
wave.
Roll wave.